What'd she say?
Loving this handsome minister.
Oh, Lord, help me.
I know. And then Miriam's love brought his jacket with the UIWU on it.
Yeah, I did that. I did that on purpose. I couldn't find. I got another one that had the tribes. I mean, like Judah, the branch.
Yeah.
Yeah, they ought to be able to hear us now.
Alrighty.
On Facebook.
Yeah,
How can we let people know?
on Facebook.
How can we let people know that are trying to see it on Facebook?
We're live.
We're live, so tell them on YouTube to look
Tell
at-
them on YouTube to go to Facebook.
Don't
Okay.
go to Facebook.
Go to Facebook.
If you're on YouTube, go to Facebook, and then we'll tell you how to go back to
There you
YouTube.
go. There you go. Hey,
Tell all your friends on Facebook to join us on YouTube.
Obviously, I got backwards on the page or group idea, and so I couldn't set up an event. Something was changed there, so
There's 6
you
watching.
you guys can go to your
There,
Facebook,
I'm waving.
and just
We're
say
here.
go to YouTube, United Israel World Union. We are live on YouTube.
there you go.
Saw you
Lynn.
wave.
Yep.
There we go.
You are live.
All
We're
right.
As
live.
far as I can tell, they can hear us.
Testing 1, 2.
So we got the
3, 4.
round table discussion going, or the square table, as John says.
Can you hear me, Dave?
Can you hear me now? All righty.
We can hear fine.
I know, Dave's not here.
Do that
So
again. That kind of sounds pretty good.
we're gonna pick up from where we left off, or we're gonna just go. So what kind of
Discuss what
questions?
we- yeah,
Yeah.
discuss.
So what kind of questions or what kind of comments did y'all have based upon what we talked about, or something you want to talk about this morning?
Well, first off, all your comments favorable. So
Okay.
I don't see any. I don't think y'all be getting any hate mail.
No hate mail. Okay, great. That'd be good. But if you get some mail that's good to help you move along and learn and stuff like that, what do you call it? Suggestive criticism or
Sure.
something.
Yeah, constructive.
Constructive. There you go. Constructive criticism. That's good to get too.
Well, I like your beginning in that, the more truth you come in contact with, the more you grow, and that 20, 30 years ago, you weren't anywhere near this.
Oh no.
And if you're not raised this way, were you raised Pentecostal?
No, I was Baptist, if you could call it such. I went there, but then about in the 70s, I started going some. And to be honest with you, I got to tell you this: the first time I went, I wanted to make a door. But Wendy Bagwell had a song about to bring the rattlesnakes in. I wanted to make one because people were jumping up and down and all this. I mean, I didn't know why, but I wanted to make a door. But there were people crowding me, and I couldn't move. But no, not at all. But like I said, everybody has to understand you got to move at your own pace.
Yeah.
You can't move any faster than you can walk per se, because this is not a run.
I remember about the same time in the early 70s, mid 70s, I was raised in a traditional, Methodist church. And I remember I would go and I just hungered for something real. It seemed like there was so much hypocrisy that I saw, and so much just worshiping a person, a cult of personality. If you like the preacher, or you like this group, or if you wanted to get ahead politically, you would go to this church and that sort of thing. And I was looking for something authentic, and that led me to a Full Gospel Baptist church where it was more of a personal, have a relationship with God, be real from the inside.
Right. And a lot of the ones I went to were very demonstrative, but we had a lot of, quote, preaching, but really no substantial teaching
Yeah.
per se. And that was why I was hungering for it. My wife and I were like, we want to be fed, because, I would see people, and I'm not, look, everybody, I did this, I was there. I'm not even putting myself down, but the fact is, you do all this stuff on Sunday, and on Monday, you be the biggest heathen in the world. I wanted to change from that, because I said, I couldn't go in that direction, and it's like, but I had to know what I should do. Because like you said, the relationship with God, that's the key of everything. Right there. It's not the relationship to a religion per se, but I think it's the relationship you have with God. I think that motivates us to change. Because like when we start changing diets per se, or we start changing the Sabbath, that was a big change.
That was a biggie, wasn't it?
And people look at me like, why are you doing this? There's somebody And I mean, of course, I point up. You know, people always think God's up. God's everywhere. But I had to make a change. I had to find more because my soul was just crying out, "Teach me."
The actual decision there, when they had that college that they brought, that the Roman emperor brought everybody together at to discuss this new religion that was going to be the religion of the Roman Empire.
The Nicene Council, were you talking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, what day are we going to have the Sabbath? And the answer was any day but Saturday,
Yeah.
because we're not going to celebrate the Sabbath on the same day as the Jews.
That's right. That's right.
So, okay, that was the decision. That's the reason. That's because for 50, as of now, for over 5,700 years, it's been the Sabbath's been on a Saturday.
Yeah.
But just because somebody changed their mind didn't mean God changed his mind.
No, not
Loud
at all.
and clear, Dave, they said. So, yeah, I can't fault, I've listened to a lot of people say, well, I'm angry at the Christian church because they lied to me.
Yeah.
I can't be angry at the Christian church. They didn't lie to me. They told me or taught me what they believed
Right.
Yes. And what they were taught.
and what
Yeah.
they were taught and what they, and so because I've walked I'm not away but past that.
That's exactly right.
I've walked past the Christian teachings to I can't be angry at them. That's what they know.
Right.
They were doing their very best to impart to me their knowledge and their wisdom and their beliefs.
Exactly.
Because for 50 years, I started questioning when I was a small child, which, I didn't realize at that time that I was questioning, but I was taking myself to church at 8 years old. I was bouncing from church to church to church. I
Oh
would
my goodness.
find
You sound
friends
like me.
who would take, I would say, can I go to your church?
Oh yeah.
And I was 8 years old. I was looking and seeking. I knew there was something missing, something different, something that wasn't quite right.
Wow.
And but I've never held any animosity towards any Christians. They did their best.
Oh, yeah.
They did. They taught what they knew.
So I think your point that you made of, even the question, are you counted as one of God's people? Do you think that, because I experienced something similar to that when I was a child, that going with my friends to different, and a hunger to know God, even at that point, do you think God looked at our hearts as a child and said, that one's mine, or that one has the potential to be mine? I see.
It's a very good question.
It's an excellent
I was
question.
just thinking about that too, because when we say, I'm not sure about this, we've got something that's written down that we can go read. Long time ago, Abraham, he didn't have this. He had nothing.
Right.
As a matter of fact, he lived in a world full of idolaters.
Exactly.
That was the norm. That was the going thing. And he questioned. He wasn't satisfied. And he went out and sought God, and God said, okay. And he talked to him personally. Or
And he was
somehow in his
counted as
dreams.
a friend of God?
Yeah.
So, I've often thought about that. Was it that God saw something in Abraham's heart?
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that since God created the universe and all the laws of the universe and all of that he knows how to count. So, is the counting so much for him or for us?
For us,
For-
he knows.
Oh, I would
For
think
us
it's for
to know.
us.
We got
Yeah.
He knows.
Real quick on one point you made though, and it's not a but. One of the reasons that, according to the Torah, one of the reasons God chose Abraham was because he knew he was going to teach his children. There's something in there. I don't have the scripture reference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But more on to your point, though, he didn't have all these instructions. He wasn't
Yeah.
told.
He's
And
like,
what-
he's looking for something.
And what
like,
you were
wow,
talking
where do I
about,
go?
you know, as far as knowing the scriptures there, or however you want to call it there, he was going to teach those, whatever those were. So that,
I guess it was like in some instances where he's sleeping, God says, "Oh, so let's talk," you know, and then he would
So-
teach his kids.
so he obviously was teaching the right things, because
Yeah.
we were researching for, and we
Well,
found a
we're
lot
all
of the
here
wrong
today.
things, and you're not angry about that, and I've gotten over it, so to speak, you know.
But let me ask, if I may interject on that same line, and I agree with you 100%. But you know, before people knew Torah, God loved people. God had these things in mind before the people had the Torah. Before we came,
Sure. He told,
Ooh, it
he
gets
told
me.
Cain, go do
before
what's
we
right. How
had
does he
the
know?
truth of the Torah,
Yeah.
did God love us? See, that's what I'm looking at.
Well, I mean, why else would he be grieved when he saw the Noah story? You know, why else would he be grieved that all that people thought was wicked day and night? I mean, you know that grieved his heart.
Well,
Wouldn't
sure.
grieve him if he didn't love.
Or he hears
his
our
creation.
blood crying out.
That's the next part. The one person asked me the other day, she asked me, a coworker from years ago, she said, because I told her I was going to be on here, she said, why do I have this love for Israel? Why this, why that? I said, well, maybe you're one of the tribe, because she actually said, well, what about the tribes? You know, stuff like that. Who's to say somewhere in our background there's not a smidgen of blood of a tribe? And that part of that is down in us, and that's what's crying out. What does Ezekiel says, you know, something about
Dry bones will cry.
and I'll bring you back.
Right.
God knows who his people are.
To a point, there was a movie that she brought home from the library from PBS, no less. It was called The Jewish People, A Story of Survival. And so we watched it together. I did a little write-up for Ross on it. It just came in the last bulletin. But what amazed me is through all of the discussion of the Jewish people, from their beginning all the way through to now, not only are they, I mean, they are the one group of people whose religious values and everything has existed pretty much the same all along. As a matter of fact, they're the only ones. And when they were dispersed, you go, okay, well, yeah, well, obviously, in a lot of people's minds, that means like Egypt and Mesopotamia and Syria and all that. A couple of years ago, Lyndon and I were in Peru. And when we were touring Lima, Peru, we went past a Jewish synagogue in Peru. And in watching this movie, I had no idea, I never heard this part before, that during the persecution of the Jews in Eastern Europe, Bolshevik Revolution, all of that going on, 2 to 3 million Jews immigrated to the United States
Right,
at that time.
right.
So, how many intermarriages have there been? How many bloodlines go back? I don't know.
From just Judah.
Yeah,
From just
from
you.
just
From
Judah.
just Judah.
What about all the
How about
others?
the
What
other
about the other
tribes?
tribes?
I mean,
And they
look.
show you in that movie that even in the olden times, they were in Spain and they were in Northern Europe and they were all over the place. And that was then, you know, and then boom, you get this migration that goes on. So, and then you talk about, well, in the scriptures it says, and I will turn my face to you and I will call you out of all nations. Wow. There's Israel, people coming back, and all you got to do to get into Israel is want to go and be Jewish. That's amazing.
In my research and talking to some people, like even some of the Indian tribes, before
Yes.
they have ways and stuff and words they use that goes directly along with the Torah. So I'm going like, So then we talk about these tribes, and where do we can get all day on just the dispersion, right? That's a whole different subject. But I think you hit on the topic exactly right. This blood deal, because the life's in the blood, right? I mean, it's my understanding that like some religions don't want to take somebody else's blood, and I understand that. Why they may not want to do that for a variety of reasons, but still, the soul is in the blood. And so if God's going to call us back, I think the blood, just like you talking about the bones cry out, what makes the blood? Yeah. The bones make the blood.
And the air, the oxygen, which is what God breathed into man.
God breathed the breath of life.
Living soul.
So because he talks about that, and I think another thing, and this is just Ronnie, it's a Ronnie Fulcher 1 and 3. I've done 2 already, okay? But maybe not only did he breathe the life, but if he breathed his breath, it's his breath got, and this is going to be a little bit, but a different quality than anything else. This God spark we talked about at eating lunch a while ago, did he breathe that into us that we're different, say, from like the animals? I think animals have a soul to an extent, or some type, maybe.
Yeah, our dogs.
They have a personality and all that kind
emotions,
of stuff. Yeah. But we're different.
Right.
So I may go too deep. I might back off of that. But
be careful, you're going to get the people who...
Let's get mystical.
Hey, look, no offense. It's like this.
This is YouTube. This is YouTube. They're good.
Okay. I look at Kabbalistic stuff. I do because I mean.
Yeah, I do too.
You can't see that kind of stuff on Facebook.
Yeah,
look, when the Pentecostal church, we looked at a lot of spiritualism stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of Kabbalistic stuff, I think, is from what I'm reading, is spiritual. There's a lot of spiritualistic things. And some stuff I can't understand, maybe, but there's some stuff in there that, hey, it rings a bell. It makes sense. And one thing I found out, and it's just Ronnie Fulcher again, but when things come together and they go along with what the Torah says, it doesn't contradict the Torah, it might be exactly right.
If it doesn't contradict, it can't be wrong.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's there, and it's not hurting nobody, and it's not going against God. Well,
I think God, obviously, is incredible patience.
Oh, yes.
Incredible patience.
Praise God.
Thank
you.
It's just beyond belief. Because I think as humans, He's waiting for us to get someplace.
Get on board.
He got an advantage of because there never was a beginning, there won't be an end.
Well, and to us, how come you didn't do it like yesterday? And like,
I know.
when you excuse me, when you don't have a beginning and when you have a beginning, you don't have a beginning and an end. What's the rush?
Right.
It's all in His timetable, not in ours. So if something takes several generations to mature, so what?
So let me ask you this, since you said that. Do you think maybe the soul matures as we grow in knowledge and understanding?
I think so.
Yeah, I do.
Somewhat, but I also think that what we
Our being.
our young children, if you get a very young child that's verbal, they can tell you things that would totally...
Oh, yes. I know where you're going.
Because there's no guile in them. There's no ulterior motive. Jadedness.
Yeah, and they're very... I truthfully believe that the baby has seen God.
I know where you're coming from. I know exactly. Because there are some writers that talk about that. I think Kabbalistic stuff like the soul comes to that child from God. It just left wherever. Yeah. That's where you're coming from, right?
Pure.
It sees these things.
And it's as the child grows and matures and becomes of the world and in the world and jaded by the world and influenced by the world that you sort of lose or...
So I know in Kabbalistic thinking and Judaism there's a belief that the more that you study Torah, that you elevate the soul. So
That's
could
us.
it be this elevation is actually a restoration? It's almost like
That's
a
right.
reverse.
Thinking this
Get the-
morning on the way down here,
get
based
the-
on what you said, I got to say, please, that's
Yeah.
awesome. From what you just said, because you triggered it. What's the purpose of the soul in our bodies anyway? Is it what you just said?
Yeah.
Is it to learn Torah? Is it to do these things to change? Okay, that the soul can reach these higher elevations per se. You know, the tree of life has got all these
Yeah.
different levels, right?
Yeah.
But what's the top? The keter, right? The crown.
Unknowable.
You know, Christianity thinks they got a lock on the crown. Oh, no. Tree of Life's already had it before you did. You know what I'm saying? So is this what we're doing with these souls? Getting back or elevating to this purpose to reunite with the Creator on a certain level? There was a movie years ago, Star Trek, and I'm a Trekkie, so that's what it
yeah.
is. But there was a deal, but they had this ship went out somewhere that came back, they called Voyager. But it was actually Voyager. You may remember that. And it had this entity on it, right? What did it want to do? It wanted to reunite with its Creator. What do you think I want to do?
I'm getting goosebumps now,
Get
Ronnie.
me out. I want to reunite with my Creator on the spiritual level.
Wow.
So,
I'm gonna be banned.
so
I'm thinking Ross is gonna
That's what you told me to say what I wanted to say.
I don't
this is
think
good.
so.
This
Hey,
is
put these earphones on and bang on that table.
Oh, I'm sorry. Banging, I can't bang on the table.
John's
no,
banging
see, it's
the
got
table.
the
No, I
I'm
don't-
the
I'm
monster.
not banging on the table.
I know, me too. Dave's always getting me because I'm banging on the table.
Watch me turn red. I'll be like the red of my jacket. Because everybody see me like, hey, look at
Those are
Ryan.
fantastic thoughts. But as the janitor around here,
Yeah.
I gotta tell you that simply, you know, if you just, I think that the scriptures, things, the Almighty finds a way.
Yes. Yes.
Always finds a way. Things evolve and develop.
No, I don't.
Through his
You
hand.
might know
Now,
that Facebook isn't
Some things
working.
may be worded a little different here and there, but pretty much
Dave.
you can ferret out through the scriptures, and primarily one of the things as a basis, if you get down to the nuts and bolts of things, there's a couple of passages in the scriptures that if you stick with those, you can't go wrong. Now, if you haven't figured out what the ultimate end goal is and what God has in mind, which I'm not sure that I have a clue, but because he did say, I'm up here, you're down here, let's keep that in mind.
And shall I hide what I'm fixing to do to Abraham?
So anyway, but on the 10 words, the ground shook, lightning, thunder, everything. God wrote those with his own hand. He said these things and nothing more. And then, in another part, what does God want? From the prophets. What does God want? God wants justice. He wants, basically, you to love your fellow man. It says in one of his commandments, to basically love your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
Well, if you take it another step farther and look at it, maybe, if you can get that done, what he'd probably like is if you would love your neighbor as he loves us. In other words, as God loves us.
Right.
That's harder to do because you can say, well, I don't mind being kicked around every once in a while, but God's not going to be that way. So his love is better than anything we could come up with. So I don't know if you follow those 10 commandments and you seek justice and show mercy and that sort of thing, then I think you can't go wrong. And eventually, because those are hard things to. It's not impossible. I've heard some Christians say, well, you couldn't do any of those things. Well, which ones can't you do?
That's right.
You can do any of them.
If you want to.
If you want to.
Right.
Right.
And if what was it my old granny used to say? Can't never could.
Right.
So if you say, well, you can't follow those. Well, I guess you can't. But which ones is it? You're not going to murder people, or you're not going to steal their stuff. You're not gonna, praise your Creator. I mean,
Hard one.
so if you
Hard.
try to follow those things and the other about, seeking justice and righteousness and showing compassion for your fellow man, then I'm thinking that you can hang in there. And someday, even if we think we got it in the bag, we'll probably find out from the Almighty Himself whether we're even close.
I gotta take this further.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get on that
Lynn's,
soapbox.
Thread here.
Okay,
on
go ahead.
Little child, because it reminds me what we're talking about, this restoration. Words attributed to Yeshua or Jesus. Except you become as a little child, you shall know I see the kingdom of God or enter in. So that makes sense. That makes sense. This restoration that needs to happen. And Ross has been teaching on the heart. He's been teaching on getting it right in the heart, and it does. You have to somehow
Think about
get healed and restored from all
stored from all the crud you've
Yeah.
been
Right.
exposed to from
Yeah.
from outside the womb.
Yeah.
But you look at a small child, a newborn infant, and they'll go to anyone,
They will.
and they'll love anyone, and they'll smile at anyone until they become hardened for whatever,
Right.
Whether it's fear, something happens.
But
Yeah.
and
Wow.
go back to being a newborn infant
Right.
with your love and your trust in God and trust. We learn to not trust.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But John, what you were saying, I mean, like if you look at those things you have, you go back to the Noahide laws. Some of those are there, right? There, but also you go past that. So I was mentioning about the Kabbalistic tree of life. Some of the same things, but it takes effort to get there. Effort. It
You're
takes.
talking about things you say on YouTube. Well, along that same subject, months ago, I can't exactly remember when, Ross was talking about one of the laws is just remember, don't chase down a monkey, rip his arm off, and eat it. So if he can say that, you can say just about anything.
No, my goodness. I'll try not to say that one, okay? Or do like that. I'm just, there is, there's texts talking about fire shut up in your bones. There's things you want to do because it's like this desire. We all have a desire to help people. I think everybody in this group. I mean, one thing I like about UIW is it's not a religion. And I've seen where it wants to help people, but some people you can't help because it's like you can try, but they have to want to receive it per se. Like sometimes you want to help somebody on, maybe that's down and they're beggars or whatever, and that's fine and dandy. But sometimes they don't want it. Like if you get people, let's say you're going to give them a bunch of money, maybe they not want it because if they do that, I'm going to be outside the realm of my comfort. I'm comfortable over here with nothing.
Yeah.
And just like I think with us, I had to learn to accept truth, okay, and put it in its place. Some things I didn't accept readily.
You put it on the shelf.
I had to.
And
I
trusted
could not
Jehovah.
handle it.
That's it. And I've had to pray, Jehovah, I don't know about this, but I'm just gonna trust you that if I'm in error, you'll show me or you'll lead me and guide me.
Right. And then later on, you can pick it back up. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Or you'll be riding down the road and it's like a revelation. Oh, yeah, I know what Ross was talking about.
Yeah.
I'm going, yes, this is right.
Last Saturday, I think it was after we were off the air, that I had mentioned about, when you give things to some people, you don't know, but you feel, it's like when you were saying you should have done something about the guy on the porch running.
Yes.
So, what happened to me that about a week or so ago that I relayed to you guys, and you and Pam said something that stuck with me, is that I just pulled up in the parking lot at Walmart and was going to go pick up a few things, and this very nice dressed elderly black lady came up and it was raining. came up and she just had a small sack of stuff that she had bought in the store, and she was crying, and she said, "This is totally out of character for me, but I'm almost out of gas, and I don't have enough. I don't have any money. I spent it on this in there, and I don't have enough gas to get home. Can you help me?" And I took some money out of my wallet, and I gave it to her, and I said, "God bless you." And, you know, she said, I've never been called an angel before, but anyway, she walked away in the rain
Yeah.
as it was started pouring down. Now, the thing that you wonder about when you do that is that going up somebody's nose?
Is it a
Is
stand?
that-
Sure.
Is it
Are they using it to buy a bottle of booze? What, you know?
Yeah.
But one of the things that stuck with me that you and Pam said was, when you do that, you've done the right thing, and what they do with it after you give them is
That's
between
right.
them and God,
That's exactly.
That's right.
and you can't worry about that. You were
That's right.
challenged to do something right or wrong, and you made that decision based upon, like you said, the things that you believe that you believe in to be right, and then you gotta let whatever happens happen, whether it does or doesn't. Maybe that's part of God's plan to eventually work through these people. I don't know. Was that above my pay grade to know?
Joe Dale mentioned something I see a while ago. She's talking about the 20, age of 20, which was soldiers. And so that kind of really goes along with what we talk about the plague and the war and stuff like that, you know. But some of the other writers in the Second Temple period, based on what I say, you know, because they talk about this goes out not only to the people in the land, but also the people not in the land. Now, I don't know where they got that per se, because this specifically saw the Israelites there, those 20 and older at that point in time. But there's one of the schools of thought during the Second Temple period did bring this other up. So would other people be able to give? I think is where they were coming from. Give this half shekel offering. You know, and I think it's a good idea. I mean, what does it harm? What's the harm in giving to the temple? What's the harm in giving to others per se? If that's what you feel like you need to do, it doesn't hurt a thing. If that's what, just like you said about, this is what you did. But I'm like you, you know, if we try and see if it's of God, okay, one thing, but because of that, no doubt, you didn't give to get a blessing. You just did it because you feel compelled to do it, didn't you?
Yeah.
And
Or
if this
to
person
judge.
really needed it, yeah.
You're not there to judge.
That's right.
Right.
They got a blessing literally, no matter how they used it, they got a blessing. You get one. This is me. This is Ronnie Fulton, 1 and 5, okay?
You're on 5 now.
I'm on 5. I'm keeping up with it, okay? But the thing
gotta
is,
write a book
I
with
see
it.
that happening. I know of people, I know of stories that I've heard that people done that you never hear because they don't broadcast it. They don't.
Yeah.
But just through the grapevine, we hear these things. And people do these things, and there's blessings that come because of their obedience, because of the giving. I mean, look at charity, that part of being charity, that loving stuff like that. I know there's some writings that says you're supposed to be a cheerful giver, that type of stuff. Happy that you can do it.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't think anybody here gives to get.
No.
We give to give out of the abundance of our heart. And John, what you were talking about a while ago, because of that.
And people give because they can give.
Right.
Some, I'm not going to say in here. Here's my number one. I don't know if there is such thing as a gift of giving, but I mean, some people have it to give. Some people don't. And you can give in other ways. I'm not in a position hardly ever to give financially, but I can give time.
Yeah, but
Or
what
you
if you
show
Sherry's
up
got a
here,
bunch of
yeah.
tomatoes, you take some tomatoes
Yeah.
But
Hey, I love you forever. I love tomato sandwiches. Give me tomatoes. It's great. I love it.
But I like the concept of the half shekel. It's kind of a cool little project going. I mean, if you get everybody, it's about counting, keeping up, and soldiers and so on and so forth. But I mean, like you say, you got a bucket full of half shekels, and you know how many people.
Right.
You can count those.
You know how many people can go to war if you need them per
How many
se?
people are going to vote twice on that one? You know?
Uh-oh. Won't go there.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's an idea. Maybe that's a, you know. Anyhow, I'll regress there.
Miriam?
Miriam talking about the 20-year-old considered adult. And, you know, we kind of, in this country, we kind of look at the 18 being an adult, 21 in some states, so forth. I understand there's 13 in some places in
Well-
the world, you know, 12.
Well,
Yeah.
in Israel,
Yeah.
when you are bat mitzvah at 13,
Really?
or a bar mitzvah, whichever,
Yeah.
male or female,
whichever it is.
at 13. So I'm not understanding, because
Right.
that basically says that you are now an adult at 13. I know you don't want to send a 13-year-old out to
Right.
war,
I think what that
But
means is
how
you
do
know the
you-
difference between right and wrong.
right and wrong.
I think that's what it
Okay.
is.
Somewhat.
Yeah,
Starting
Or
to
you
come-
should
starting
know
to
the
come around,
difference.
At least
Right.
are able to learn.
You
Right.
should be able to
Learn.
differentiate,
Yeah,
I guess,
hopefully.
by that age.
Hopefully get them young enough. 'Cause
But-
if you wait till 18, like 20.
well,
Is there a?
in the
is-
Roman Catholic Church, they made that the confirmation, was to
Okay.
be able to, and
Different
they
culture,
took that,
different-
well, they took it from the bar mitzvah, which was, you know, you're now old enough to be able to, you know, make a decision on your faith and defend your faith and all that sort of thing, and it's the same thing with the bar mitzvah,
Right.
and
So-
the bat mitzvah.
Bat mitzvah,
Bat
yeah.
mitzvah.
It's kind of unreal that a lot of religions, they take things from the Bible or from other religions to use it as part of their ideology or whatever.
Well, Christians, I mean, where did they come from?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Cain,
Kind words to another is also a gift.
yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah. Who said that? Who
Absolutely.
said that? Whoever said that, that's great. I mean, that's so true. Like,
Dave, who said that?
that's fine. That's fine. But I mean, you think about that.
One of the watchers, okay.
I mean, how many times, hey, look, just or have a good day, and you say something that I've seen people
Smile, you know?
Yeah, or a smile. Like you say, so I've seen people do that. Hey, have a good day, and then people start crying. And then this one lady, I was at Chick-fil-A again. Here we go.
There we go, Ron.
And hey, I got own stock. I need to.
Yeah, I was about to say.
This person said this, and this lady broke down and started crying. I'm having a rough day. All this stuff was happening in her life, and all this.
I can
Thank
tell.
you for saying that.
I can tell you, I experienced this when years ago. Dave and I were starting out in landscaping, and in Baton Rouge, you know, in that industry, there are the big companies and the big guys, and they have all this money and equipment and crews, and they're treated differently when you
Overhead.
go to the suppliers. And so I was just really having a bad day. I mean, we were being treated like, oh, you're just dirt.
Little and
Little
nothing.
and nothing. And so we went into this irrigation company to buy some parts. And I was just about, you know, totally discouraged. And they treated us with such kindness. And I know that they were Christian people just simply because that the words and the way they treated us. I went away from there thanking God, saying, you know, you use these people, and it was just simple, kind treatment that turned my day around and my thinking and my whole attitude toward other people and how I treat them. So that was a gift. That was doing something, just acts of kindness. You never know, like you're saying, when somebody's going through a really rough time, what your actions, how they're going to be affected.
It affects you. I mean, you know, when you have a good countenance on your face, then you feel good. Mm-hmm. You know,
You kind of radiate
You
a
know,
little bit.
which comes first there, the good countenance or the good feeling?
So
Which one?
Which arrived, the egg or the chicken?
I just ordered a chicken and an egg from Amazon. I will see which.
Boy, good to
That'll solve that dilemma, won't it?
If you feel bad,
World
if you
question,
feel if
deep
you're feeling bad and you make yourself have a smile on your face, is
Yeah.
that changed, or does it go the other way around?
Well, The
Or is
other
it both?
day,
Attitude's everything.
the other day, okay, so when I go in the nursing home to visit my mama, I have to walk like way big old halls, long halls, lots of them. And I'm usually talking to whoever I come across and greeting them with a smile and encouraging them or whatever. And I went into my mother's room and there was it was hard. She was having a hard time and it was she wasn't being treated right. So I came out of her room and I was walking down the hall and her neighbors, who I always greet, knew instantly from my countenance, talking about countenance, you don't look too happy. And I had to stop and explain, Mama's not feeling well. She's going through a hard time. But that spoke to me, that watch what your countenance. And I think, to your point, John, that, yeah, we should be mindful in that prayer about, what is it, the Aaronic benediction, like,
Yes.
may his countenance shine, however it goes, where my countenance be healed. Let you shine through my countenance.
I'm not advocating a fake smile.
No.
You don't get me wrong out there. Don't go around with a smile on your face. You just, you don't.
No.
Some people don't look good that way.
But
But
We
it
can-
makes a difference.
Yeah.
It
Because
does.
as you're walking through, I've noticed
Yes.
walking through the store and I'm having a good day and
Yeah.
I'm smiling.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm upbeat.
That's good.
More
That's
and
different.
more people-
I was talking
Yes.
more of you really hate the world, but you're gonna smile anyway.
Right.
That kind of stuff. Like
when
Mr.
you have the flu,
grumpy
and you
guy.
go walking through the store, and people catch the
We
flu.
get over here.
People catch the
Yes.
flu from that virus. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you're in a good mood and it exudes from you, and you're walking through the store, you can
Yeah.
be just as infectious as if you had that virus.
that is good. That is good.
So
How
if you
good
had-
to be mindful of that.
If you're walking around with a smile on your face, are you worth more than a half shekel than the guy that's not
But-
walking
but
around all grumpy?
this isn't a question. This isn't a
But it's
question
your
of
not worth it.
worth.
It's not
smile
worth
on their face.
It has to. It has.
Your
It
vote
has
done on
more.
it's still only a half.
It has
It's
more
still
to do with being represented as one of God's people. Am I being counted as one of God's people?
Right,
Because we've talked about this. Patty Tyler's mentioned it several times. Like,
Pretty good.
we can change our thought pattern. Like, if we're dwelling on the negative, dwelling on, this is a rotten world, things are going
Right.
bad, that's going to come out on our face. So if we turn it around and our thoughts, like you said, Ron, God is doing so many good things for us and blessing us that we don't even know. We should just be thinking, well, I know I may not see your hand directly doing it, but I know, I can see, I have vision, I have hearing, you bless my life. And so we can turn that around.
Right.
We can turn it
Well,
around.
sometimes it's taking stock.
Yes.
When you sit there and watch the news and you listen to things and the things that are going on, and you,
Yeah.
to a point,
Yeah.
there are times when you see some of the shenanigans that go on in this country, and you're listening to it all, that you go, I just don't believe this. Maybe I need to go someplace else.
I thought about that.
But the thing is, when you look at other places, they're not necessarily any better.
No.
So, what do you do then? And then, I know this kind of sounds silly thing, but taking stock of what you have in your life, and it's part of those blessings because you're not in that quagmire. Your life maybe have have some problems, but
Yeah.
if you look at it, maybe you're a heck of a lot better off than you realize you are. And it's part of those blessings that you haven't been beset with things.
That's the attitude of gratitude, John.
There you go. There you go. But,
I like it.
Ross taught
Can I
something.
quote you on
Yeah,
that?
attitude of gratitude.
Attitude of gratitude.
Ross taught something the other day about, I think you were saying something about thoughts come through our mind and stuff like that. It's based on what we feed our mind.
Yeah, now
Yeah.
you're going to preaching.
But the other thing is, too, it's who do we hang around with?
Yeah.
I have a saying I stole from somebody else. I don't remember who it was years ago. They call them spiritual vampires. That if you're around them, it's like there's such negative energy. They want to drag you. I mean, if you watch some of the stuff on the news, all the negativity, it can affect you. If you read certain books, maybe that's all negative about, and I'm not preaching about what you read. I'm saying some things just affect you different ways.
Yeah.
And do you want to do that? Because it can affect you. Like, what kind of countenance are you going to have, right? I had one person years ago. I thought they were my friend, and I'd go to their house some, and my wife would come back in the house. She said, "You've been over so and so's house." She could tell by the spirit I manifested when I walked in the door. I wasn't being mean or nothing, but she just kind of picked that up. It's because you're like, you weren't what you were a while ago when you left. You know, so there's certain things I think we need to stay away from so that we're not affected, so we can stay. It's hard to stay tuned. Maybe that's the right John or wherever I'm coming from. It's like to stay tuned to things like on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. Years ago, there was this little girl. I heard the story, and I'm going to say this. Somebody was saying, do you sin every day? Do you sin every year? Do you sin every month? And so she asked this person, said, "Well, do I sin?" That person said, "Yes, yes, yes." They said, "Well, do I sin every moment of the day?" The person said, "Probably not." And the little girl, her wisdom, like you said, "Well, I'm going to live my life moment by moment by moment." And that's what we do.
Yeah.
We do that.
Don't know how many heartbeats you got left.
We don't know. We don't know. I'm just glad I get up. My wife says, "Why do you smile every day?" I said, "I woke up." You know.
Was that one guy said, when I wake up in the morning, I put my arms out. If I don't hit wood, I know it's going to be a good day.
I got to remember that one. That's good. That's good. Do we have anything else? Questions or
not
comments?
really.
That was great.
Well, I just want guys, if they got anything they want to add, whoever listening in.
Not a whole lot on
Not a lot of chatter?
YouTube.
The
YouTube's
Tylers
slow.
say Shabbat Shalom and
Yeah.
great job this week, folks.
They were listening
Who
to
was
you
that?
driving.
The Tylers.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember
Dave
earlier
Tyler.
they commented that they were on the road and they were listening to you on the car
Yeah.
radio.
I
or
do that
whatever.
sometimes. Listen to Ross. I'm going
Yeah.
somewhere.
Oh,
I
yeah.
got him.
Yeah.
I got it. I listen to him when I'm going down the road.
sometimes you got to be careful. I almost ran off the road one day. I don't know if it was him or that I didn't get a good night's sleep. But
When you get a little happy there with what he was saying, is that what it was?
No.
Oh, the other way.
I fell asleep, man. So, Lynn's yelling over there. It's like, what was that one? I want to die in my sleep like my father did, and not like his passengers yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
Not like his
That's unreal. They'll never listen to us again. All five of us together. Never again.
So, see, next week they're going to Ross is going to be broadcasting from Israel.
Yes,
Yep.
him and Dr. Tabor, I think,
Wow.
are both going to
That'll
be
be
good.
Both,
good.
maybe. Ross for sure. And so that'll be the
So
same
we'll-
time. I'm not sure. We have to, see, I believe in balance, right?
Yeah.
And so we're doing YouTube only right now because I couldn't get the Facebook thing to work right, so I just forced it to go live on YouTube.
Yeah.
Ross could probably do the same thing next week backwards. He's more than likely going to do Facebook and not YouTube
Okay.
because he doesn't, he likes YouTube there. They just doesn't have the stuff programmed already in his phone. So that's just a guess. Now, he might.
Well, he puts a
He may.
Facebook notification out.
He does
you
the
can
Facebook.
tag that. So
He does all that, and that's
See,
why we're not
Dave's
doing it now because I don't
Dave's
normally
talking
do that.
Kabbalah. He
Yeah.
doesn't even know because it's the balance
I noticed
thing.
on the UI,
So we got to balance it all out.
yeah, I noticed on the
I
UI
love it. I
bulletin,
love it.
Ross is planning to go to the wall, and he has a link on the UI bulletin that takes you directly to his email if you have prayer requests.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
important.
Look at the UI bulletin this week's, scroll down, there's a radio button, click it, it takes you directly to an email, and you can type in your prayer request, and he will get it. And trust me, I have seen the man do this. He has gone
he
with
does it, yeah.
handfuls of pieces of paper
Yeah.
to the wall,
There you
and
go.
he
Yeah.
puts it in the wall.
And for those that may not know about that, I mean, I didn't because it's just not one of the things that I knew about, is that periodically periodically they go to the wall
sure.
and they take those pieces of paper out, and they don't like throw them in the waste paper basket,
Nor do they read them.
or do they read them. They buried them in the same place they buried the older scriptures with.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah, it's not destroyed.
They
It's not read. They
they
treat it
treat it
with respect and reverence.
And
Awesome.
with the understanding that most likely those little notes have the word on it, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not destroyed, and, you know,
It's
I
a
have been
serious
there
deal.
and
It's
watched
serious.
them pick up
Sure.
people praying at the wall. If a prayer falls on the ground, they
pick it
do
up.
pick it up
Sure.
and they read it again and pray again, and they put it back in the wall.
Yep, yep.
Just so people may know, you know, I've noticed this from watching some of the stuff that James Tabor was associated with, and you know the Jesus tombs and all that stuff. Is the old scriptures that are almost worn out.
Yeah.
They will bury those in tombs with the dead. It's sacred ground, and those are where those prayers go as well.
So they buried
Cool.
Torah scrolls? Is that what you? Or, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They don't destroy them. They
They
don't
don't
put them
destroy
in the
'em.
garbage.
That's honor.
Yeah.
That's honor.
So
So your dad took you on grass listening tours?
No, the front porch, brother.
front porch.
Since you brought it up, I say this one thing. We would go out there and we had rocking chairs and we would rock. And you had to rock the same way Dad rocked.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he'd say, "You're rocking again me."
Right.
And we would sit there and we'd sit out there and listen to the grass grow. They're the best times of my life.
Wow.
And if you needed to ask him a question, it was the no judgment zone.
That's about right. I could tell him things then. I didn't get a
Right.
whooping.
You wait for an opportunity, there it is.
But if he found out on his own,
Yep.
different story.
You got that talk.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear the grass grow no more at that point. Great.
Guys, I enjoyed it.
All right. Yes, it was great. Thank y'all for letting me come down.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
thanks for
coming.
coming.
It was awesome. And
Yeah.
Miriam says, I thank you all for the great blessings you've given us. It's excellent teaching, Ronnie. Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov, the Coles, and all at the table, as well as all my global family.
United Israel Northeast, Dave Tyler and them.
Yeah. Let's just give the glory to God.
Yes.
Amen.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Shavua Tov.
So if I hit this button right here, it kills the audio.
Okay.
Woohoo!